welcome to this online fall program. My name is Muhammad Jamjam Fauzanafi. I am a lecturer in the subject of visual anthropology in Gadjah Mada University, Yogyakarta. I'm doing this subject, visual ethnography, since I was graduated from bachelor degree in anthropology in Gadjah Mada. I continue my studies to get a master degree in visual anthropology in Granada Center for Visual Anthropology in the Manchester University in the UK. And then I continue to work as a video facilitator to make video community programs in NGO called Yayasan Kampung Halaman. I'm working with the young people making their own videos for almost 20 years. That's also become part of my doing visual ethnography, because it related to one of the approaches in visual ethnography, which is applied visual ethnography. And then I'm starting to teach also in University of Gadjah Mada, and starting to make a course about visual ethnography. The course is divided by two subjects. One is the ethnographic documentary, and another one is ethnophotography or ethnography photography. And today I will give you my experience. Actually, this is kind of sharing experience, what I'm doing as a visual ethnographer. And most of this talk or this lecture will be based on my experience doing a lot of research and making film, and also creating ethnophotography, and also facilitating young people in different communities in Indonesia. Okay, maybe you can start with this presentation. And doing visual ethnography, methods and techniques. Firstly, we need to define what is ethnography actually. Ethnography is a process of creating and representing knowledge about society, culture, and individuals that is based on ethnographers' own experience. It does not claim to produce an objective account of reality, but should aim to offer persons of ethnographer experience of reality that are loyal as possible to the context, negotiation, and intersubjectivities through which the knowledge was produced. So what is visual ethnography? Visual ethnography is the use of visual approaches or media, such as photography, film, video, drawing, etc., to learning and knowing about and in the world and communicating this to others. The key element of this definition is about learning and knowing and representing. These three activities, three doing, is what we will learn today. There is two approaches or methods in visual ethnography in general. First, we can call it unmediated realist frame. This based on observational approaches, mostly related to the sociological inquiry, tended to propose prescriptive frameworks that aim to disdain, objectify, and generalize, and thereof detract from the very qualities and potential that the ambiguity and expressivity on visual image or ethnography. And the second one is phenomenological and sensory approach to visual ethnography, concerned with the production of knowledge and ways of knowing rather than with the collection of data. Thus, visual ethnography as a reflexive, situated, and collaborative practice necessitates critical and multisensory approaches. within these two methods, I will delve more into the second methods based on my own experience. So basically, almost all my research and my film production and photographic project, they are use this the second method, which is phenomenological and sensory approaches. And what is the techniques that I use in my project? First is ethnophotography. Ethnophotography basically is the combination between ethnography and photography. And as I mentioned before, I use phenomenological and sensory approach to do this. And the second one is ethnographic film or video. To put it simple, this is the method or techniques how to use a film video in doing research using ethnographic approaches. And the second one, and the third one is applied visual ethnography. And in this occasion, I will give you an example of my project, which is Photo Voice project and participatory project. Participatory video project. The first one, ethnophotography. I will try to explain how to do an ethnophotography approaches or method by explaining my own project. So by doing that, you will have an example and also understand the techniques in the same time. My ethnophotography project that I done, one of them is, the title is the privatization of the sense of comfort, patient consumption and sensory transformation in Tasikmalaya, West Java. And this is related to the consumerism. And in my project, consumerism is defined as a material sensibility that is actively cultivated, and this study will emplace human sensory experience as the arena of its cultivation. It is because human experience their material life, also their bodies, through their senses. Sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell is not just tool for knowing physical phenomena, but also a fact for the transmission of the culture and arena for the practice of society are performed. My project or my research tried to ask these questions. How the human sense are shaped through consumption practices, and conversely, how consumption practices also shape the way humans perceive their material and social world, so as to give rise to certain types of subjectivity. In this context is the culture and daily life of people in Tasikmalaya. My method, as I mentioned before, is ethnophotography with using phenomenological or visual sensory method. In this method, I just not looking at or gathering data, but more being in and engaging in ways of knowing about the world and action of other people. It is including being with the informants by walking, working, eating, eliciting, or discussing images, or as I call, photo elicitation, and talking with them. It is also mean that it is not just method for data collection to be analyzed later, but more involves to the production of the meaning in participation with them through a shared activity in a shared place. This is the key elements of making ethnophoto. I will try to break down these techniques one by one by giving example of my own project. First, if we want to make a ethnophotography, the way we make a film, the way we make photos, first we need to consider we need to make a mix of wide, medium, and detailed photograph of subjects. Wide-angle photograph record more of the context and the interrelationship of a situation. The wider the view, generally the greater volume of potential information within it, and the more likely we are to later discover aspects we had previously missed. Conversely, narrower, more selective photographs provide more detail and are important in working through an understanding of specifics, as in the steps on artistic or technical process. But their value is limited without a wider context in which to place them. This is the example of my own ethnophotography research. This photo taken in the street called Hajat Street in Tasikmalaya. As you can see, there is a two photo here. One is more like wide photos. They try to capture the old style display of the store in Tasikmalaya. And the second one is more narrower frame, which is the display itself, in where the clothes are put in the glass cabinet. These two photos bring the information or bring the idea that to buy clothes or to make to buy clothes in this kind of old shop or clothes store need to make a verbal contact and negotiation with the seller to measure consumer bodies that fit to the clothes. To make it simple, in this old style store is different with the shopping mall, in which the display is there is no barrier between the consumer and the clothes or the fashion that they are displayed. But in this kind of old store, we need to make a contact with the shopkeeper or the owner of this store to start to talking about what kind of clothes that we needs or we want. And the second one, make photographs from a variety of angles and distance. Basically, this is a extension of the same principle as before. Just as mix of wide and more detailed image enhance the range of potential information, so too does a mix of angles of view. Make photograph from a variety of height, not just eye level, a variety of distance, not simply at the same distance each time, and variety of angles to capture different views, not simple from in front. Realistically, not all situations permit the photograph to obtain a mixed angle, but they should be obtained if at all possible. This is the example of this principle. So I took different angles of this shopping mall called Asia Plaza, and through these different angles of photograph, I found that Asia Plaza tried to try to create their own space using this word comfortable or nyaman in Indonesia. So Asia Plaza is comfortable shopping place or shopping mall. This is the largest mall in Tasikmalaya when Toko Asia and Asia Dep Store are no longer sufficient for the shopping desires of Tasikmalaya residents. And the third one, we need to compose photos in terms of the age of the frame, so as to maximize the informational content. Do not automatically place the main subject in the center, but rather compose the photograph to maximize the use of the whole frame. This means thinking about where the edges fall rather than about what is in the center. We want to use the camera to extend our vision, not merely to reaffirm it. By composing from the edge, we start to break away from the subject-oriented view to one of discovery, using the image as a net within which to obtain more of the elusive and simmering cage of the information inside. This is the example of that technique. In this photo, we can see there is a little models. So this is the situation when, see, after winning the children's model competition, these little models look tired. Standing by the trophy, he holds a certificate of appreciation bearing the logo of political party down below. Through this photo, I get insight about the possibility of exploitation of children in the world of fashion or modeling, and lead me to the discovery about connection between the world of fashion and politics. So when I took this photo, I'm not strictly focused to the center, which is the model itself, but I try to see the edge of the pictures, and I found that there is a room, or there is an object that interesting down below in the certificate. So I took that edge as a point that I want to include in this photo. And the next one, we must make photographs in sets and sequences, not simply single shots. This means tracking action, people, process, and places through time and space. Only in this manner can we begin to discover and appreciate how social process occurs or how material elements relate. Single photographs are prosthetic to work with single photographs are prosthetic to work with because by themselves they usually leave us with more questions than answers, lacking both spatial and temporal context within which to make them comprehensible. This is the example of the process or the sequence of the events, which is the modeling or fashion show events that took place in the shopping center in Tasikmalaya. From this sequential photograph, we can see that shopping mall is a multisensory event and experience, or shopping itself as a multisensory event and experience. Consumer see fashion shows where clothes with certain brand are worn by ideal bodies. At the same time, they also display their fashion style for others to see. We can see that there is an audience on these events who see the fashion show, but they also making or wear similarly beautiful clothes and fashionable dress. So at the same time, they are seeing the models wearing this beautiful or this branded clothes, and in the same time they are also become a model for themselves. The next one, when we make a photo, be sure to photograph what comes before and after focal activity as well as in the moment of transition. We want to know how things came to be and what their aftermath may be. Capturing the chain of action and consequences that make up both the mundane and the spectacular. Transitions are often crucial for understanding both social and technical process, as they define new beginnings and endings, shaping what follows while signaling the end of what came before. This photo came from the same events, which is the fashion shows that I mentioned before. And this photo is in the left. It came before the photo in the right. So this is really in the direct sequential. So these two photos were taken sequentially, when a male model who appears in the fashion show is considered not to display an ideal body, handsome, tall, or sexy, young women, the audience, that I took the photo in the right one, laugh at him, and the woman looks disappointed, and the old woman who are in the more in the foreground, it also looks disappointed with this male model. So by combining these two activities in sequential, we can understand two things happen and how they relate each other. Make photographs at regular intervals. This is another tips or techniques that I want to introduce. Even when we think nothing seems to be happening, sometimes when we make a research, bring camera to the field, for some time we feel that we already took anything or everything. So we have no idea what kind of photograph or what subject that we want to photograph more. But we can use this technique to overcome that issue. So by discipline ourselves, making a photograph at regular intervals, we will try to find or to discover maybe something that not really expected before. We cannot assume that we know when something significant is present and should make a visual note consistently through time and space, within which we may discover previously unappreciated phenomena. Just because we don't see anything happening or anything important doesn't mean that it is not there to be discovered later in the photographs, either by ourselves or by others more knowledgeable. This is the example of photo that I took using this principle. So when I feel there's nothing happened, I try to make a photos in interval that I set. For example, like I will make a photo for every 10 minutes, for example. And then I starting to snap to certain object that in front of me that maybe is not really interesting in the beginning. And then I took, this is only 2 examples of that. And when I feel nothing seems to be happening or I have no idea what to be shot next, I took several random photos regularly. There are some results from the process. These 2 photos later on, through photo elicitation method, able to elicit important knowledge and sensory experience of lustful gaze, or in Indonesia we call it tatapan nafsu. As we can see from these 2 photos, we can see there is 2 women and also there is 2 men who staring at them. In the beginning, when I took this photo, I'm not really realized there is 2 men who make a gaze to these 2 ladies. But when I give this photo, when I display this photo or share this photo with my informant, some of the informants suddenly recognize these 2 kind of gaze, they call it, or tatapan. First is we call it as lustful gaze or tatapan nafsu. Lustful gaze creates a sense of uncomfortable to my informants. They will feel comfortable, nyaman, when they were branded, beautiful, and sexy dressed, and to be looked at with a gaze of admiration or tatapan kagaguman. So this is how important this kind of techniques that I apply in my research. And another techniques is when we make a photographs, we try to make a photographs not only the dramatic one or the event that we think very dramatic, but we need also to see the mundane or the everyday life. We are habituated to recording perceived peaks of cultural process, forgetting that life is often not dramatic, that people do not live only at the peaks. It is often the mundane, undramatic step along the way that are most essential to cultural process. And it is in everyday events that the foundation of our lives are truly found. For example, this is 2 photos that I took in the shopping mall. This depicts everyday mundane shopping activity and dramatic, unusual situation when a shopping mall employee fell to sleep on the top of the pile of clothes that she was selling. The situation is this lady fell to sleep because she is tired. This photo is took when I took when the in the occasion of Lebaran Day or Idul Fitri in Indonesia, which is the same experience when people in Europe, for example, doing Boxing Day, when people swarm to the shopping mall and buy a lot of stuffs and a lot of discount clothes and fashions. And when we're doing ethnophotography, the one of the most important things, and it is we need to keep good notes or annotation that can provide background and identification for your photographs. Do not depend on memory. Photographs beyond a certain point do not speak for themselves, and their meaning and signification are defined by context. Anything that extends the contextual information associated with an image extends its value. Digital camera can be set to record basic temporal information automatically, and with computer images and associated annotation may be combined into visual database, usually organized and searched. This visual database will make us easily organize and search, and providing the basic annotation was made to begin with. So basically, we need to name or to archive our photographs. When I'm doing this project, I took a lot of photographs and resulted in hundreds photographs. And without annotation, we cannot easily find which photograph that I took. So we need to make this very good annotation so we can code and we can also store the data in our computer or in our database. And the last one, in this project, I'm also doing photo elicitation. What is photo elicitation? Photo elicitation is I choose the selected photos were then shown to the subjects or the informant related to what was revealed through photo, either as a subject that is captured by the camera or a subject that has relationship or experience with what is captured by the camera. By showing the photo to certain subjects or informants, it will provoke and reveal certain memories, sensory experience, and feelings related to the consumption process and practices that are facilitated by the images in the photo. This process, which is called photo elicitation, is a multisensory event. It's expected to reveal how the subject or informants perceive or sensing their material and social world through the practice of clothing or fashion consumption. These are some photos that are used in photo elicitation process. These photos reveals memory, sensory experience, and feeling of comfortable and uncomfortable, or in Indonesia, nyaman and tidak nyaman. When my informants wearing their favorite clothes and the feeling when they are looked at with lustful gaze or admiring gaze, as I mentioned before. This idea of nyaman or comfortable is triggered by these photos. So when I give this photo to my informant, they try to reveal their own experience related to what they seen in the photo. And then they starting to spontaneously telling what they are feel and what they are thinking or what they are experience related to this phenomenon in the photos. That's what I call photo elicitation. And from this all techniques and all findings, in my research, I found that all these clothing consumption practices are changing the way Tasikmalaya people perceive their material and social world through what can be summed up as a privatization of comfort. Comfort is no longer related to human relation with the social and material environment, but is more related to organizing and caring for oneself through the clothes worn and displayed or seen. When the physical environment of the city of Tasikmalaya is getting worse, roads are damaged, garbage accumulates due to the poor management, hot air due to pollution, public facilities are getting more and more chaotic, the appearances of the city is getting shabby, shopping and displaying style clothes in malls and the streets create a more privatization sense of comfort. So that's all the findings of my research using this method of ethnophotography that I explained before. This, the second approaches or the second methods is using using film or videos, doing ethnographic research. And we call it ethnographic film or videos. Ethnographic films or videos has different approaches or different methods. And at least there is three different methods or approaches in ethnographic film. First, ethnographic film as a record. It defines the primary purpose of ethnographic film as being to preserve in the mind of the viewer the structure of the events it is recording as interpreted by the participant. Anthropologist Carl Heider emphasizes on if we want to record ethnographically, we need to record the whole bodies, whole people and whole interaction and whole acts. So, for example, Carl Heider reject the practices, for example, by making close up and so the whole bodies of the subject or informants is not seen. In these techniques or in these approaches, film is considered as a data or evidence. And this is influenced by anthropological argument, to be sure, but not as constituting an argument on its own. As such, this approach tends to be emphasize the importance of providing supplementary text. The example of these approaches is this film. This film is called The Axe Fight. This film called The Axe Fight by Timothy Ash and Napoleon Chagnon.
February 28, 1971, afternoon.
This film tried to record special events in one community in Yanomamo area, or the tribe of Yanomamo, where
Two women are fighting with each other.
there is a kind of a fight between this clan. The anthropologists, Napoleon Chanyon and Tim Us,
Bring your camera over here.
try to
It's gonna
record
start.
this occasion or this event that in the beginning it seemed to be chaotic. So they try to place the camera from certain angle and not disturb the event. They are just there and watching what happened in front of them without any explanation. They try to provide the evidence of what really happening in front of the camera without any explanation from the subject itself or from the anthropologist. But then in the second part of this film, the anthropologist starting to make analysis of this evidence or data. Ini di skip sampai ke ada tanda-tanda apa? Ada orang bicara ya. Apa antropolognya bicara? Terus dan ada panah. Stop. Ini di sini.
Fight. Cable
in
was
this
sees
part,
that his back is turned and rushes him from
The
behind.
anthropologist
He
starting
strikes
to
a
make an
powerful overhead
analysis
blow with his axe,
this
the
record.
dull side forward,
And
hitting Mohe Siwa's brothers
this
squarely
analysis
in the
is
middle of the
based
back.
on their
He instantly
data
collapses to the
about
ground and lies there motionless.
the
The
structure
situation is now
of this
very tense,
tribe.
for it is not
the
clear if the young man has
kinship
been killed
of this
or
tribe.
is merely unconscious.
So by recording this event, they try to make analysis of how this axe spike is
Nanokawa,
possible
alarmed at this,
because of the
quickly takes up a heavy club and wades
dispute
aggressively
between
into the
family
throng.
and between different family in the same DC.
A partisan of Kebua's drives away a woman who's biting insults.
The second approach in ethnographic film is called ethnographic film as a text. If the ethnographic film as a record frame, if the ethnographic film as a record frame aims its sight at something more akin to illustration, the ethnographic film text frame, championed by Ruby or J. Ruby, an anthropologist, asks us to think seriously about how image might be able to do what text can do. An ethnographic film should be subjected to the same analogously rigorous scientific examination and criticism as any other product of anthropology. In this sense, J. Ruby tried to urge anthropologists who make ethnographic film to use ethnographic film as a replacement of text. So if text can or books can describe the phenomenon with rigorously scientific examination, film should do the same thing. And this is the example of the ethnographic film as as a text.
About behavior.
This is the example of these approaches, ethnographic film as a text. This film
See behavior and can work back
Danny
to figure
Reses
out what these Donnie children have in their
by
minds.
Carl Hader.
What are the rules of the game?
This film is took in
We see girls wearing
Dani
the
tribe
hanging grass
in
skirts.
West Papua.
They're boys wearing penis guards or
As we
shorts,
can see from this
and occasionally a Japanese school teacher
clips,
in white.
there is a
The
group
footage
of
was shot in
boys
1970.
playing
Today,
in their schoolyard.
probably all the Donnie kids would be wearing cloth,
they are playing something or
shirts and skirts
something
and shorts.
like a game.
There are three artifacts we have
And
to take
Karl
into
Haider,
account.
as an
There's a
anthropologist,
long
tried to
stick,
record
actually
this
bamboo
and
reed,
then
a long stick
making
for
a
hitting,
making a comment
a little short stick which it is hit,
making a comment
and a depression in the ground
about
made
this
by just
games
the kid
or
rotates
this
their heel
children play,
in the ground, makes a little depression.
and try to make a
Now we'll just
scientific
look quietly for a
examination
moment.
about
Look
what
for regular,
really happening
repeated
in front of the
acts.
camera.
Try to work out the rules so that you
He
can
tried
predict
to,
what will happen next. Then I'll come
break
back
down
for
all
some
these
play-by-play
activities
hints. Or
step
better
by
yet, you
step
just turn off
and
the
try to
sound, watch it
understand
once or
what it is about,
twice, try to solve
what the
puzzle
rule
yourself,
involves, and
what
what the meaning of this
listen
game.
to the narration, listen to my
So basically,
narration,
ethnographic film
and
as a
try to
text,
check how well you did.
it will
Okay,
very
let's watch.
defend. Basically, ethnographic film as a text, it will be very dependent to the explanation of the anthropologist itself. The explanation can be shown by the comments or by the voice-over, but also can be helped by providing a text itself. The text itself can be put in the film, but also can be presented in the text outside the film. And then, if we want to screen the film, the text itself need to be brought and then to be read as we see the film. In this sense, ethnographic film as a text
You've begun to see some of the problems.
is not
The
really
first problem is to focus
easy
and decide what it is you're trying to decode.
to accomplish.
You see boys
Because
running
films
through,
and text
sometimes
is a
flocks of
different
boys,
phenomenon.
kicking a little
It's
ball,
different
sort of,
modalities.
Impromptu soccer
Therefore,
practice.
there is
Here they
another
come from the left.
approaches
Don't try to work
in
out
ethnographic
rules
film
for
as
that
in
this moment.
ethnographic
You
film.
see in the
This approach is called ethnographic film as sense impression, where the film as a record frame where the film as a record should to downplay the aesthetic devices of cinema to capture whole acts, and the textual frame should to be imbue the visual with the qualities found in the written ethnographies. Our third frame or approaches, which is ethnographic film as a sense impression, reject the supposed inferiority of image to text. Instead, it emphasizes the unique elements already found in the visual communication. Castaigne Taylor, anthropologist also filmmaker from Harvard University, argued that film captures something of the lyricism of life experience in a way that text cannot. David McDougall, an ethnographic filmmaker and also anthropologist, also insists that image can do things which word cannot. He said that this ability of images allows us to re-enter the corporeal spaces of our own and others' life. The manner in which we all, as social creatures, assimilate forms and texture through our senses, learn things before we understand them, share experience with others, and move through the varied social environment that surround us. This approaches is related to this the turn of affect in anthropology. The turn of affect or the emotional, the return of the phenomenology or post-phenomenology, actor network theory in sociology and science studies, theories of the post-human, human-animal, human nature, and human technology relationship, theories of materiality, emphasis on the agency of the objects, the turn to neuroscience in the humanities and social science, and the insistent operations as an unmediated encounter. By emphasizing the sense as important, necessary, and alternative means of anthropological knowledge and analysis, the sensory frame has encouraged formal experimentation which has pushed the limits of the what count as visual ethnography. And these approaches mostly started or introduced by two institutions. First is the Granada Center of Visual Anthropology at Manchester University, which I am graduated from, and the Sensory Ethnography Lab at Harvard, which is founded by Castaigne Taylor that I mentioned before. The example of this film is a film from Rupert Cox itself, the one who teaches in Manchester University in Granada Center of Visual Anthropology. He tried to make a film using this, what he called as formal experimentation. So he doing experimentation by combining film with the sound recording or sonic ethnography. And this is the film. This film called Kyatsu, or air freshers in English. This film is about how the condition of the air in the spaces or in the area. This film took place in the area of an airport in Okinawa, but this airport is basically is military airport. So most of the aircraft that face this that fly in this area most of them is military aircraft, and this aircraft and all the infrastructure of the airport create the air pressure and create a noise that experienced by the people who live surrounding this airport. And Rupert Cox, with the sound recorder or sound artist, tried to make a record of that noise, and then it combined with the pictures of how people surrounding this airport living their ordinary life. The result is this kind of experimental film. There is no explanation on this film, no commentators, no voiceovers. The audience is provided by this sense of hearing and sense of seeing something, and try to experience by themselves, by their own ear and by their own eyes. So this is kind of sensory experience that tried Rupert Cox and this sound artist to communicate with the audience. The audience just need to listen to it and concentrate to what is screen in front of them. Another example of these approaches or film as a sensory impression is film from the Castaigne Taylor itself, from the Sensory Ethnography Lab, Harvard University. This film called Leviathan, and the film as the same as a film from Rupert Cox, Kyatsu, also provide the audience with no commentator, provide the audience with no comments, or explanation about what happened in front of the camera. Using GoPro or action camera, they put in the body of the ship, and in every angles of this ship, the audience, they try to put the audience in tension, and they try to they try to provide this experience of being in the ship when this fishermen try to capture a fish in the oceans. As you can see, the film itself looks very raw. And it follows all the activities of the people on the ships and also the move of the ship itself. And the most important thing also the relation between the materiality of the ship. For example, like chain, net, and also irons, hooks, and machines, with the men who operate it, and also the fish they are captured. And also we can see another animal, for example, like birds, also related to this relation of actor and workers. So the actor is not only human in this film, but also the fish itself, and then another materiality, for example, the ships, and also the water, and another animal like the bird. Using this method, Lucian Taylor bring the audience to experience almost all the aspects of this fishing activities. Sometimes Lucian Taylor bring the audience underwater. Sometimes he bring audience to the sky, and also joining the crew of the ships inside the ships. So the eyes and the feeling is all over the places. And this kind of experience that he wants to share with the people, and using the powerful camera technique, and using these approaches, ethnographic film as a sense impression. So film, ethnographic film in this sense, is a matter of how the anthropologists and also then the audience share the experience as a crew of the ships, and also as somebody who training this fishing processes. Okay. This is the last method in visual ethnography. This method called applied visual ethnography. What is applied visual ethnography actually? There is at least two techniques or two approaches in applied visual ethnography. First, researchers in this area commonly point to the ways in which participants in their project gain new forms of self-awareness and understandings of their situation. In doing so, they emphasize that it is not necessarily simply the audiovisual product of the applied project that is important for making intervention, but the process through which it is made. Thus, applied visual anthropologists have consistently been concerned with producing change in the world, with individuals and collective, and more broadly in wider society. Second, to produce a documentary or other form of lens-based creative practice output, although it is the way, it's not always the case. These outputs are often created through and or informed by collaborative and participatory process of researching and photographing or make a video recording activities and experiences of various kinds. They are often made for a target audience and use the potential of film to facilitate the making of new intercultural understanding, what Salvan and Rich Cole refers to as a cultural brokerage. I would like to give an example of how this applied visual ethnography is implemented by showing you an example from my own projects. This project basically is photo voice project and community video or participatory project. In this photo voice and community video or participatory video project, basically I handing out still or moving picture, in this photo voice and community video or participatory. In this photo voice and community video or participatory video, basically I handing out a still or moving picture making devices to people and giving them a limited number of guidelines to depict aspects and events of their own world. There are two examples that I want to show you. First one is the Photo Bacio or Photo Voice project in Tasikmalaya, West Java. And another one is participatory video project with young people in traditional art community in Ponorogo, East Java. The first one, Photo Bacio project, it's involving 40 young peoples from different ethnicity, cultural and social economic backgrounds, Sundanese people, Chinese, Santri or Islamic student from Islamic boarding school, street children, and etc. To depict the aspects of their everyday life and create intercultural awareness and understanding of amid racial and religious tension. In Tasikmalaya, in 1997, there is a huge conflict involving in Tasikmalaya in 1997, there is a racial conflicts or racial conflicts that involves people from the Santri background who attack people who are considered to be Chinese descendants. So there is a huge riots in the cities when people burn the stores belongs to Chinese descendant people, and also looting, and took a lot of stuffs and things from the stores and their houses. And some of the Chinese descendant people who lives for almost 100 years in Tasikmalaya, some of them are flee to other city. And this tension is always there. And how people of Tasikmalaya perceive the Chinese descendants or Tionghoa people in Tasikmalaya with this negative prejudice is always there. So by making this Photo Bacio project or Photo Voice project, I would like to bridge the art. By this project, I would like to bridge these two groups of peoples that are in always intentions. And this is some photos that resulted from this project. This photo took by the Chinese student or the Tionghoa students. This photo shows the daily food of Chinese descent in Tasikmalaya. When this photo is displayed and discussed with a group of young Muslim children from Islamic boarding school, this photo is able to dismantle the prejudices and stereotypes about Chinese people. The student taught, or the Islamic board, the Santri or the Islamic boarding school students thought that Chinese people always eat pork every day. And as you can see from the film, and as you can see from the photos, they are, turns out, they are often eat the same food as the Santri or the students, which is the regular daily food of Sundanese people, or maybe even Indonesian people, in almost in place in Indonesia. So this bring this. So these very simple photos. Successfully give the. So these very simple photos successfully bridge this understanding of how they are actually have a similar tradition and have a similar everyday activities. This photo was made by Santri, Islamic boarding school student, to dismantle prejudice against them. He wears a mask that is identified with the terrorists, but in fact, he wears the mask to take a part in the, we call it ronda or patrols, in the settlements around the Pesantren, Islamic boarding school. In the photos, he tried to mimicking the image of criminals, or maybe in some cases is like a bank robber, or also identic. Also, this is identical to the kind of terrorist outfit. But in the second photos, we can see that he is only wearing the mask and without, but with the his everyday clothes, which is very typical Santri clothes, which is sarung and also. But in the second photos, we can see that actually he wears everyday clothes that identical with Santri, which is sarung. And this photo shows also how both Santri and Chinese descendants or non-Muslims people both love to watch soap operas or sinetron in Indonesia. So basically, through this photo voice project, they found that their everyday life is share the same activities and share the same values and even same understanding about their daily life and their world. The last one, related to this applied visual ethnography, is my project in Ponorogo. This project is participatory video with Ho'e community in Ponorogo. Using participatory method, this video could become creatively entangled with traditional creative expression to create new modes of performance, where participants' bodies reveal new stories. The camera become a mimetic machine or sensuous snow machines that was able to reconnect us, according to Miso Tausig. Participants in Ponorogo, who are also traditional dancers, use the word ngedan or trance to describe how they would engage in making video and dancing. By ngedan, they perceive their surrounding differently and wake up in the new place inside. Basically, this young people in the traditional dancer communities is always discriminated by the elite of the villages or the elite of the village, and they always recognize as somebody who so basically young people in this community is always discriminated. Basically these young people in this these young people in the traditional art community, usually they are discriminated by the elites of the village because they are perceived or they think that these young people is doing a bad thing. For example, like drinking, and also by performing this traditional dancer, and they try and then they are trans in this performance. They are considered to be a bad people. So using video, they try to make their own daily activities and try to voice their concerns about their life and how they perceive their own life, and also give new understanding about what they are actually, what they are do. So by handing out this video by handing out this video to these young people, they try to make a film about themselves, about how they perceive their own life and how they try to pursue their dreams in the future. And this film then screened in the village and also communicate to the elites of the village, so they can understand actually what these young people want to do, and so this film is screened to the elite, and then so this film is screened in the village and communicate to the elite of the village, so they can understand what is the concerns of these young people and what they want to do in the future. This is the example of the film.
Saya teringat waktu itu pagi hari 17 Agustus 1996. Teman saya, Agus, datang ke rumah. Dia bilang bagaimana kalau acara panjat pinangnya diiringi dengan musik tek, katanya biar lebih serem. Kami setuju dengan usulannya, biar panjat pinangnya lebih ramai. Meskipun sebenarnya waktu kecil kami takut melihat jarangan tek karena penarinya kesurupan. Tapi ketika kami menari diiringi ke belakang kendang Agus, kami malah menikmatinya. Menari bebas, dan mungkin orang lain anggap kami juga kesurupan. Sejak saat itulah kami sering berkumpul untuk latihan jarantek dan pelan-pelan membuat kelompok kesenian jarantek yang kami beri nama Turongko Sakti. Kami adalah anak-anak muda desa yang pada saat itu usia 18 tahunan. Anak dari petani-petani kecil Sebagian besar sudah putus sekolah dan dianggap berandalan kurang kerjaan. Kelompok Jarantik kami terus berjalan, meskipun ada yang mempersoalkan kenapa kami memainkan jarantik dan bukannya reog yang dianggap kesenian asli Ponorogo, sehingga kami dianggap memecah belah masyarakat. Bahkan sebagian orang menganggap kami berteman dengan demit karena kesenian jarantik identik dengan kesurupan.
In this film, these young people from this traditional art community in Ponorogo, they are trying to make a documentation of their performance, and that involving trance in this performance, and then they try to also make a new interpretation of what is trance actually, or in their word is ngedan, or crazy, or being crazy. And they are trying to understand their own activities and by make a discussion between them. And in the discussion, when they have a discussion about that, they make a film about this discussion and put in the same frame with these activities, with this performance. As we can see in this film, in the beginning, all is about how they are making a performance, and then in the end, through the end of the film, we can see that there is a discussion among these young people, try to replace what actually they already did, and that what they want to do in the future, related to their own life, to their own dream, how to pursue their dream. For example, getting recognized by the villagers, and also get education, and also get opportunity to have jobs, for example.
Ketika menonton kesenian jarantik dan reog,
putar sampai ke mana yang lagi diskusi, dilompat gitu. Ya ini.
Panggil, nah aku bingung tekane wong tuane, sing lagi kelas 1 ku mesti seneni. Tak tekane. Tak input. Ditutone aku ini gurune. Gurune wedok. Wedok. Oh mending Mas
Try to confess what bad behavior that they already that they are done before. So, and how they overcome or try to make a resolution. So in this film, these young people try to document their experience when they are making a performance in different occasions, and in the performance, in this traditional art performance called jarantik, that are involved also trance. And throughout this film, they also try to make a new interpretation of their own performance. So what is the meaning of trance? What is the meanings of their dance? And what is the meaning of getting together through this performance? And also in this film, we can see that they are trying to discuss it in group about what their experience in their life, what is bad things that happen to them, and how they solve the problems that they they may face. And then this film then resulted in this new understanding of how these young people try to pursue their dreams in the future by making this new group called HOE. HOE is the name of this group and also the title of the film. And HOE means they are a group who want to pursue a lot of opportunities that they want to pursue, but by making this performance and their activities also fun for them. By these approaches of applied visual ethnography or participatory video, the participants try to make a reflection of their own life and try to understand what is problems that they face, and try to understand and to define how to overcome their problems. This visual ethnography project, as I mentioned in the beginning, in the introduction of this method, is aimed toward the social change and how these people who participate in this participatory video in the end can change their own life. This participatory video is the last example of applied visual ethnography methods. As you have seen in this lecture, I have given you a detailed explanation of how to doing visual ethnography through 3 different methods or techniques that mostly based on my own visual ethnography research projects. First is ethnophotography project, and then photo voice and participatory video project, and also more general approaches in ethnographic films based on classical ethnographic film and contemporary approaches of ethnographic film from Manchester Schools and Harvard School of Visual Anthropology. I hope this lecture will give you an introductory understanding of doing visual ethnography. Thank you.